What's up, y'all, man? I'm in this downtime of no current boxing situations going on, man. I'm gonna go ahead and start my spotlight series. And the first fight I'm gonna start on my spotlight series is on Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was a very underrated heavyweight champion. He is the second longest reigning champion. 7 years over like 20 something, or like close to 20 something title defenses. He's second next to Joe Louis, and I believe third is the young Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko. He's the next one. But Larry Holmes is very underrated, man. He beat a lot of good fighters. He beat a lot of, you will hear me talk about a lot of not great fighters, but he beat a lot of good fighters who later became champions too as well. He stopped their train early, but they did later become champions. But I'm gonna start off with his notable wins. Well, let's start off like this. He's the Eastern Assassin. He compiled 69 wins, 6 losses, 44 KOs, and he got stopped only one time, and that was by Mike Tyson. We all know that. On his comeback. Larry Holmes was a little bit older then, but nevertheless, I'll say the first one I'm gonna talk about is Ernie Shavers. Now, what I didn't know until I heard a video with Larry Holmes is he used to be a sparring partner of Ernie Shavers, and he said he never wanted to fight Ernie Shavers because in sparring with 16-ounce gloves, Ernie Shavers was able to hurt him even with 16-ounce gloves on. Now, if you ever sparred, 16-ounce gloves are like pillows compared to the gloves you fight, in a regular fight, a regular boxing fight. 16-ounce gloves are kind of like pillows, you know what I'm saying? But it is people that can hit pretty hard that can still stun you even when you have headgear on in 16-ounce gloves. And if Ernie Shavers, like he said, was able to hurt him really bad in sparring with 16-ounce gloves on, you can see why he really didn't want to fight Ernie Shavers. So, and he said that when him, Jimmy Young, Ernie Shavers, it was him, Jimmy Young, Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton had a box off. This is for the title, the heavyweight championship of the world. And he said he was hoping that Ernie Shavers got beat. So he wanted to face anybody but Ernie Shavers. So he ended up fighting Ken Norton for the WBC heavyweight title, and he was able to beat Ken Norton. He said that he thought he beat Ken Norton by more than 1 point because it was by 1 point. I seen some of the fight. I seen like 5 or 6 rounds of the fight. I never really finished. It was like 2 weeks ago when I was at home sick with the flu. I was watching the fight, but I didn't really see all of it because I had a really bad headache and I had a fever. I was just laying on the couch looking at it, but I fell asleep. But I seen that Ken Norton would have like spurts in the fight, but Larry Holmes was consistent. He was consistent with his jab. Larry Holmes had a really, 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 really good jab. Probably the best jab in heavyweight history, next to Sonny Liston, because a lot of people said Sonny Liston used to knock people down with his jab. But Larry Holmes had a really, really good jab. And what that does for you that fighters don't use right now, a good jab help you win those quiet rounds, man. Those rounds when people are like, man, I don't know if that guy won. I don't know if that guy won. If you have a functional jab, man, you can win most of the quiet rounds. And he was able to win a lot of quiet rounds. So my thing is this. I thought Ken Norton was a pretty good fighter, but I thought Larry Holmes, from what I seen, he won like 5 out of the first 6 rounds. From what I was able to see, he did go on to fight Mike Weaver, who later became champion. Mike Weaver wasn't a great fighter. He was he was able to win the title, but he wasn't a great fighter. You know what I'm saying? He was a good contender who early in his career he had some losses, and then he was able to kind of to have a what you call an Indian summer, to where he got things together. He was able to do something. I mentioned Ken Norton. He Mike Weaver did beat John Tate, who was undefeated at the time, for the title, and he beat Leon Spinks. You know, not Michael Spinks, who was the great light heavyweight champion. He beat Leon Spinks, who beat Muhammad Ali for the title. So Leon Spinks was a former champion, but he wasn't all that good. He wasn't that great of a fighter. But he was able to beat Leon Spinks. He beat Tim Witherspoon, who was a young up and coming champion. I mean, a young up and comer, soon to be champion later in his career. Tim Witherspoon at this time, you know, he was a young buck, but he was a pretty good fighter. He was, you know what I'm saying, he was on the uptick. See, this is what I'm talking about. This will make great champions too. To when guys come up who are promising and you stop the train. The train doesn't begin with you. You stop the train, and later they become something. Like Tim Witherspoon was able to later become something. He was able to beat my guy who won a gold in the Olympics. He was able to beat. My guy. What? Oh, Ray Mercer. Ray Mercer was undefeated at the time. Ray Mercer was young coming up. And Larry Holmes was able to beat Ray Mercer later in his career on his comeback, and Ray Mercer later became champion. You know, Ray Mercer beat Tommy Morris. He had a really good fight with Lennox Lewis. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. Ray Mercer was known to be a really tough guy to beat, and he was a really good contender. You know, in the '90s, but he was able to. He fought Mike Tyson. That was the only guy that stopped Larry Holmes was Mike Tyson. We know how Mike Tyson was so devastating back in that time. It was an older Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes did manage to go the distance with Evander Holyfield. I believe he went to distance with Evander Holyfield. Well, I'm not. Yeah. He went to distance with Evander Holyfield. This was Evander Holyfield getting himself ready for the heavyweight division. You know, a lot of people criticize Evander Holyfield for not finishing Larry Holmes, you know what I'm saying, like Tyson did. And but Evander Holyfield wasn't a power puncher per se. You know what I'm saying? He was not a big puncher anyway. He did stop you with accumulation of punches, but Evander Holyfield was more of a technician. We all know that. I didn't know that he was a sparring partner for Joe Frazier when Joe Frazier was getting prepared for the Ali fight. He said that he switched sides for a minute. And he was a sparring partner for Joe Frazier. He never fought Joe Frazier or George Foreman. He said George Foreman was slow. He said he could have beat George Foreman because George Foreman was slow. He said, but if George Foreman hit you, it would have been all over. He said he think that's why Joe Frazier had some problems later in his life because he got destroyed twice and got hit by those big punches versus George Foreman early in his. I mean, you know, when they fought. So and he said that he offered George Foreman a lot of money to fight him. That's what he said. I'm just going off what he said. I don't know. I really wasn't into boxing at that time. That those two guys probably was negotiating that fight or whatever. I really wasn't looking at boxing in the 70s because I was born in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? I really wasn't paying attention to boxing until like Tyson came on the scene. But I really wasn't looking at boxing and with an educated eye or really getting deep into it until like the 90s. So yeah, man. He later fought, you know what I'm saying, Michael Spinks, the great light heavyweight champion. He lost twice. I seen one of the fights. I thought Larry Holmes won. A lot of people say they thought Larry Holmes won both of the fights. Michael Spinks was kind of awkward, man. He was an awkward fighter. I don't think that take his pants off, take them off, take them off. Michael Spinks was you know what I'm saying, a awkward fighter, and wipe him down. Bye. A lot of people said that the reason why he lost to Michael Spinks is because he had made some comments about Rocky Marciano. Y'all know he's the only heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. He was killed in a plane crash, but he did retire before that. But a lot of people in the media they were kind of upset that Larry Holmes attacked Rocky Marciano the way he did. He said he was quoted as saying Rocky Marciano couldn't carry his jock straps. That he'll beat Rocky Marciano, but he did praise Rocky Marciano for as limited as he was to be able to win the fights he won, because he said even if Rocky Marciano fought a lot of his fighters, but 90% of the fights that he fought, he said that he thought that they were not really good fighters. It's still greatness is still there because he was able to win all those fights, and that's what we kind of forget sometimes when a guy have a lot of wins and undefeated. Yes, he may not fight really good fighters. Yes, they may be below. Wipe them down. Yes, they may be below fighters, and put a pull up on him. Yes, they may be below fighters, that are third tier or second tier fighters. But anything can happen in a boxing match, man. You can get cut on the eye. You can break a hand. You can sprain your ankle. Anything can happen in all those fights. And he was able to, Rocky Marciano was able to, win a lot of those fights. Rocky Marciano did, beat Joe Louis later in his career. He did beat Jersey Joe Walcott. You know what I'm saying? He was able to beat some great Hall of Fame fighters. But a lot of people in the press were mad at Larry Holmes for that comment, and they say that's the reason why that Larry Holmes did not get the decisions versus Michael Spinks. That could be a big reason why. But nevertheless, man, Larry Holmes in my book, Larry Holmes is in my top 5 of greatest heavyweights of all times, man. If you don't have Larry Holmes in your top 5, I don't know, man, because you have to have Larry Holmes in your top 5 for this reason. I mean, I'm not saying change your opinion, but I'm just saying educated opinion. He was able to be champion that long. He fought all tough challenges that came up, and some of the guys he fought, like Tim Witherspoon, Ray Mercer, later in his career, Mike Weaver, guys of that ilk, were able to become champions later. So he stopped the train with him. He said, no, not on my watch. That's a great champion. Longevity. He defended the title a lot. He fought often. You know what I'm saying? He was able to beat some Hall of Fame fighters. Don't chase him. Leave him alone. He was able to beat some heavyweight fighters. He was able to beat some Hall of Fame fighters and beat really good contenders. And he reigned for a while. So a lot of reason why he don't get a lot of his notoriety or his just due is because he came at a time when before Ali wasn't retired a long time. So he kind of came, a lot of people kind of looked at Ali as still being the man. I believe if Ali was retired for like 5 or 6 years and then Holmes came up the ranks, I believe Holmes would have had his time, his separate time. Even though he beat Ali in the ring, a lot of people look at Ali like he was old and he was going through a lot of physical problems. He was. Yeah, that's not the excuse. He was going through a lot of physical problems. So let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all can add some things in the comment section of what y'all think about Larry Holmes. If Larry Holmes is in your top 5. Larry Holmes got to be in my top 5. You know what I'm saying? I got Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Larry Holmes, Evander Holyfield, because he was 4-time heavyweight champion, the most times at heavyweight champion. I got Ali. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's mine. That's my top 5. So let me know what y'all think. I'm out.